I always love seeing you in the lobby, just snapping along with that. That always makes me laugh.
It's a banger.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Shout out to whoever put that royalty-free music available for usage. That was great. Welcome to Bump Back, everybody. Jarrett Bailey, joined by my good friend, not my father, but some people think he is, Mike Tanier from Two Deep Zone. Hi, buddy.
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm always good. You know, we're almost 3 weeks down in the NFL season. A Monday night. Can I complain about the Monday night doubleheaders?
Jeez.
They're stupid. Completely waste of time. It's just a big thing for Disney to get a boner about. Oh, look at our ratings for ABC and ESPN combined. Get fucked.
It's hard from a coverage standpoint especially when you're trying to do like around the league and like there are Bills and Bengals are out in the wind somewhere. So if you notice what I wrote this week is NFC. What's going on in the NFC? Because it's very likely the Bills are 3-0, but maybe they aren't. Maybe the Bengals got a win. So I couldn't do a full walkthrough the way I normally would.
Right. Also, it felt like the Sunday games were just like, I don't want to say boring, but like kind of boring.
Because you watch the Steelers.
All right now.
Had to hang out. I was talking to this with Aaron earlier. You got to hang out in Eagles bar when the Eagles are effing up on every fourth down.
What's up with that, by the way? You're an Eagles guy. Is Sirianni just like slowly losing his marbles like Jack Nicholson in The Shining?
Well, he all work and no play. He has nothing to do except sit at his typewriter. Now that Kellen Moore does everything. He's always been a go for it on fourth down guy. But I think it is now percolated over to this is the one thing I really control on this team is the fourth down decisions. So I'm going to get like manic about it. And we went through all the probabilities on it. The first one was actually a probability error.
Okay.
The second one was kind of a wash. Maybe it was going for it was okay. And then the 60-yard field goal was cuckoo banana pants. It was just absolutely bonkers. And we were going to burn down our own bar. We were going to burn down our own bar in absolute rage at that point. It was just the energy was so toxic. And then the Eagles won.
Yeah, in strange fashion. Maybe it's just a thing where whatever Pennsylvania team Kenny Pickett plays for, they just automatically start to shit the bed. Maybe that's it.
He has that awesome power. The Eagles are 2-1 though. I mean, it's 3-0 if Saquon catches that ball or if Sirianni doesn't. Or I think that was Kellen Moore. And it was like, let me outsmart myself with this magical concept because heaven forbid we do a sneak because that's the other guy's.
Right. We'll kind of start this whole thing off on the other side of PA though, because the Steelers 3-0.
Yeah.
How about it, Mike Tanier?
You're on the Justin Fields bandwagon.
Oh, Mike, I'm not just on it. I'm driving it. I'm the leader. I'm the conductor. I'm Tom Hanks in Polar Express. I am everybody all aboard the Justin Fields bandwagon.
You're Thelma and Louise, and you're going to go over that cliff at the end, man.
I'll just kind of give my piece on it. To me, it's not a thing where Justin Fields is automatically like, oh my God, he's Josh Allen. No, but I think that it could be similar to what Baker Mayfield has done with Tampa, where he gets out of a situation that didn't suit him and he goes to a much better situation that does. I don't think he's going to be, a $200 million quarterback, but could he be a 3-year, $100 million? Maybe. They didn't ask him to. They haven't asked him to run the ball, which is interesting because everybody, if you look at, just predetermined notions on Justin Fields and you say, oh, he probably ran the ball. He ran for 6 yards yesterday and threw for 245, and there's a few dots in there that has shown clear progression as a passer. So Pittsburgh's 3-0. I don't think that they can turn away from Fields. And I think that you want to hear my tinfoil hat theory?
Yeah.
So I think that what happened was they were always going to name Russ the week 1 starter. That's fine. But I think that they're definitely playing this Russell Wilson calf thing where it's just like, we're just going to be super careful. Don't want Russ to get hurt. Meanwhile, I guess we'll just have to see what we have in Justin Fields. And then he goes 3-0. Now they don't have a reason to pull him. I think that was their way of having their cake and eating it too. That's just my thoughts.
I think that part is definitely true. And it's them being very careful with the messaging all around because they're careful with the messaging anyway. And Russell Wilson's ego and the way he can counter message if things go wrong. And, I'll give you, they can't turn away from Fields right now this season while they're playing this well. And he is taking care of the ball and things. And I think I have seen a little bit of improvement, certainly from what I saw at the end of last season. But let me just counter program you this. Now,
Sure.
Say it was last year, and the Steelers were facing a bad opponent, and it was 10-10 in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter. And then that opponent's backup quarterback got hurt. And then there was one big play, and then they won the game. And this was Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada last year. How would you have perceived that victory based on that series of events?
So let me throw a little bit more of context into it. I'll answer your question first. Yes, I'd be pissed. But I will say this as well. When you look at the overall structure and the long established drives that the Steelers are putting together, they weren't doing that last year. Week 1, they had drives of 12 plays, 10 plays, 10 plays. It's just they weren't finishing. Week 2, in the first half, they finished. They got a touchdown. They're putting together long drives. Fell apart in the second half. That I don't know what the hell Denver did defensively, but they couldn't really move the ball in the second half. And then they face a really good Chargers defense and starts. Oh, don't give me that, Mike. They're a good defense.
They say really good Chargers player in Will Mack, and a defense, a secondary that is terrible.
I like Asante Samuel and Derwin James. I think that.
Go on.
The Steelers receivers, they were playing with 3 receivers because Van Jefferson hurt his eye in the game. So they're rolling with George Pickens, Calvin Austin, and Scotty Miller as their 3 receivers. So I think that if it was similar in the lights of, okay, it's just constant 3 and out after constant 3 and out, and they just have one out of nowhere play that gets them over the top, then I would be, repeating a lot of what people are saying. But it's not that. They are establishing drives. They are holding on to the ball. And it's kind of been an inverse of last year where they could run the ball pretty well and the passing game stunk. They can't run the ball to save their lives this year. Outside of the last drive where they ran for 69 yards, they had 45 yards rushing before that. And then all of a sudden, Najee Harris and Cordero Patterson decided that they weren't losing that game, and they took it downfield. So, and in terms of Fields and Pickett comps, like right now, Justin Fields is 11th in the NFL in adjusted EPA. Over 2022 and 23, Kenny Pickett was 44th. So I understand the comps there and everything, but there are
taking it all the way down to Kenny Pickett is a little cruel to Justin Fields. That's a little,
yeah.
But I think we're getting a very selective bias here. It's like, they don't go 3 and out anymore, except all the times they do go 3 and out. And look how they sustain the drives. And like one of their big drives yesterday was penalty.
Yeah, the Chargers sustained that drive for them. That was pretty cool.
Right. So, they had that one long drive early in the game, and then they have a touchdown to Austin late in the game. And that is the sum total of their scoring. The previous game, they had the huge drive early on where they capped off the giant man touchdown. And then it's like, and then you're playing tennis with Bo Nix. Okay. And again, you see in the second half of this game, we played tennis with Bo Nix, and then Mike Tomlin went out there and said something like, when Kenny Pickett did what he needed to do to secure this win, you would be howling. I would. Yeah. And Fields is better than that, but we're really there's a very slight difference here that I think we're parsing. And I have it pulled up here. I don't know if I can pull it up, but
okay.
I'm not going to get it right now. I need to see Justin Fields down by a touchdown trying to do something.
That's a valid point. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Right. Because for 3 years, all I saw was Justin Fields down by a touchdown, down by 2 touchdowns, doing something, trying to do something, and then disaster breaks. And credit to the defense, credit to the fact that they've kind of built a structure right now where he can dink and dunk, which he didn't do a lot of in the past. And credit to the fact that they played Bo Nix and they played Tyler Heineke. They haven't been in those opportunities yet. I think we need to see some of those things before I'm going to do anything for Justin Fields besides he's better than Pickett, and maybe he's a little bit better in this system than where he was last year.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not here banging the drum that all of a sudden Justin Fields is a top 10 quarterback. I will say, though, that, there is clear improvement. I think that the offense is, looks better overall than it has in years past. And I have hope, which is something I haven't been able to say for a few years. So I do agree, though. Once he did throw an interception yesterday off a weird batted ball. He threw to Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, people were talking it was deflected. It wasn't a good throw.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't the best decision. He tried to fit it into Cordero Patterson. He was kind of blanketed. Right. But in years past, I think we would have seen that snowball into another bad decision and potentially another one.
Right.
Rebounded well, won the game. I'm gonna, they play the Colts next week, who Anthony Richardson to me is just like Will Levis with better PR. Like, what the hell is going on in Indy, by the way? That was such a tire fire of a game. Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams competing to see who could suck less. That was brutal.
It was a mid-major Tuesday afternoon.
That was Tuesday night Maction.
That was Tuesday night Maction, where it's like, oh, well, these are some exciting young players, certainly, and like all kind of stuff is happening.
Let's watch Central Michigan versus Ball State. Who's in?
Right. I'm going to put some action on this game because I have nothing else to do on Tuesday night. That's what it looked and felt like. And Anthony Richardson, I mean, he's like Cam Newton on bath salts. It's when the moment of clarity kicks in, the most beautiful thing in the world happens.
Yeah.
And then you go back to like 15 passes that are just bouncing off of people's shoes. And
did you see the interception he threw in the end zone to a meeting room of Bears linebackers?
Yes. And I couldn't figure out what he thought he was seeing with that. He just, fuck this. I mean, that was and he had another throw that was similar. And then he has all these other throws where it's just like, well, I mean, the guy is kind of open. I don't know how you miss him.
Yeah. How long is he going to ride that one amazing touchdown pass to Alec Pierce for? Like, how long are we going to use that as like, look what he can do, though. Look what's there. I feel like he's going to ride that for a while.
I think, yeah, because, I mean, they burnt the boats. Like, there's nothing else there. This is the plan. He is extremely inexperienced. You can build all that narrative around him. This is a rebuilding team.
Yeah.
The patience is a virtue. That's fine. I just, as the weeks go on and I don't see any improvement in the decision-making or the accuracy, I start to wonder how this will come together, because it's not like, well, he can throw accurate balls, but he's still like throwing into tight coverage, or he's scattershot, but he takes care of it and throws it away, or any of these things. It's just like, here's your two highlights, and then everything else is garbage.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky sell.
It is a very tricky sell. Another person who is a tricky sell, but a lot of people are buying that stock. Sam Darnold, 4 touchdowns. The Vikings are 3-0.
Yes.
And Brian Flores has quarterbacks seeing ghosts every Sunday. It was Brock Purdy last week. CJ Stroud looked incredibly distraught on the sidelines yesterday. And it wasn't close. Like that's another thing. Like the 49ers game, the score looks a little bit closer than the game was. And this was just they beat the hell out of them.
Right. They beat the hell out of them. It snowballed a little bit. They get this early lead, and then you have the situation where the Texans are playing from behind. The penalty situation was absolutely stunning for the second week in a row for the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Texans were also third string running back, and like sometimes we get, especially in the analytics, feel so glib about running backs that we pretend like, oh, there's no difference between Joe Mixon and then the Cam Akers that we kind of pulled off the scrap heap, who was good like 3 years ago.
Preseason hero Cam Akers that everybody's like, oh, look, he just had to tear both ACL so we could get even again. Like, okay, sure.
Preseason hero and like Hall of Fame game hero too. So you're down in the place here where it's like you're going to play in the Hall of Fame game. But like, yeah, credit to Flores, credit to Justin Jefferson. Now we're going to do the Sam Darnold thing. I pulled up.
Right.
I'm a very fastidious person about when quarterbacks never have to play from behind.
Mm-hmm.
They never have to press. They never have to force the ball. So they look much better. You got the lead. It's 3rd and 12. You can throw a 6-yard pass, punt. You're fine. Your stats look good. When you're playing from behind, you got to force the ball, interception, sacks. Sam Darnold has thrown 2 passes this year when trailing.
Wow.
2 passes the entire year while trailing. And I think this is up to date. Your guy Fields has thrown 10. I think they were in a bunch of passes in the
Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Falcons game. So only 2 passes when trailing the entire year. Of course, that's going to kind of put a tilt in your stats. Now, when leading, I'm just pulling this up real quickly. He's thrown 39 passes with the lead, which is like 3rd in the NFL behind Stroud. And Derek Carr, another guy who's having this magical season.
Right.
So it's like, look at this. We've got the lead. We have control of the game. We do not have to take chances. And it winds up warping your perception of how good they're playing. I'm not saying Darnold's playing poorly. But, like, it's easy to not look bad when you're not like, okay, I got to get this ball down the field because it's an emergency.
Yeah, and, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I hope Sam Darnold continues to succeed. Like, I remember a few years ago when he was in Carolina, they started off 3-0, and then the real Sam Darnold stood up. I'm kind of just –
Sam Temple.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop. And again, I hope it doesn't. But like, there's a reason that Sam Darnold's on his 4th team, and it's because there's going to be at least there's going to be at least one game this year where the game's tight and he throws just a soul crushing interception where you're like, what in God's name were you looking at, dude? Like, holy hell! I'm just kind of waiting for that.
He's been trying. Did you see the back?
He has been trying. Yeah.
Did you see the backwards pass to nowhere?
Yes. He went full Will Levis and he got away with it, but everybody saw it.
Right, everybody saw it. And there were a couple of other little moments like that. There were ones against the 49ers where he thought he was Michael Vick for a second.
Yeah.
And he got rid of the ball in time or something like that. But like looked like he was scrambling like directly into a defender, and the last minute he got out of the way. I don't mind if the other shoe dropping means Sam Darnold winds up, you know what? Hey, we finished 9-8, lost the wild card game. And while, you are not the future here, you're going to spend the next 10 years bouncing around the league getting these opportunities.
Right.
That's fine. Just like right now, you're like, okay, is Sam Darnold worth $254 million or something like that? I hope we're not getting on that. Not you and I, but the world getting on this train.
Give it about 10 days before we see it on FS1. I'm sure that it'll come up.
Chase Daniel is in the laboratory right now.
He's cooking up a take. Yeah, like that's the thing. And like I said, I want Sam Darnold to continue to succeed. And the Vikings are fun as hell to watch. I mean, especially defensively. Like Brian Flores, I don't know if we'll get another head coaching job just because of everything that came out about him. Like, but at very least, man, like this is a very fun defense. And the Vikings are going to be a fun watch, which is better than, being bad and boring. At least they are intriguing and fun. So they got that.
Brian Flores is the Buddy Ryan of this generation in that you don't want him around your quarterback because of his FU attitude towards all quarterbacks, particularly the injured one right now. Mm-hmm. But like the things he can bring to the table on his side are unassailable and thrilling to watch.
The Steelers could have promoted him when he was their special assistant linebackers coach, but they didn't. They let him walk, and I will always be upset about that.
He was behind like 3 other people that was in the pipeline of Tomlin's guys.
He's behind Terrell Austin. So
that was and Austin went to Detroit and he was up and down. He got fired in Detroit.
He got fired by Detroit. Yep.
But he was supposed to be a rising star, but I think he was definitely like Tomlin's, my most trusted, my Dwight Schrute, Yeah.
That's a good comp. I like that. The Dallas Cowboys are there's something. 28-6. The Ravens did their best to lose that game.
Yes.
And then Mike McCarthy, so they score a touchdown, right? To make it 28-12. And instead of kicking the extra point to make it, just a 15-point game where you'd only need 1 2-point conversion, they try to get it all back there to make it 28-14. Mm-hmm. And then they score again, and they do the same thing again rather than just trying to make it another 1 2-point conversion situation, and they don't get it. Right. It just, had they not done that, they might have been in a better spot to win the game.
I did not even notice that. I lose track of all of the 2 possessions, but that seems like the kind of thing he would mess up.
Right? Yeah, that's if anybody's going to mess that up, Mike McCarthy will be at the front of the line.
It was a train wreck until the last 8 minutes, and that was an attempted train wreck on the other side by the Ravens. I don't know what to make of it that much coming out of it, except from the beginning of week 2 against the Saints till the middle of the 4th quarter against the Ravens, the Cowboys look like one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like 7 quarters of awful football. And now I got to try and pivot from that saying, well, they look good in the week 1 against freaking the Browns, who are a complete mess in their own right.
I'll even say this, in the second half against the Browns, obviously they're, not having to try as hard, but the offense didn't look great in the second half against Cleveland.
True. That's true. They were just kicking field goals.
Yeah, they didn't give a shit. They were just like, we got this thing wrapped up. We'll just, whatever.
Right. And Deshaun's running around circles and all of his offensive linemen are hurt and he's pretty much toasted. And it was like a good first half. And then it was a 7 quarters of horrendous, of almost looked like the Panthers level football at times. And then there's 7 minutes of absolute glory. And I don't know. I can't turn around and say, oh, but these guys are still in the Super Bowl conversation because of the 4 superstars on the team. It's hard to do that right now.
Yeah, they're incredibly thin. And when CeeDee Lamb's throwing he was throwing a fit on the sidelines. I don't know if you saw. He's throwing a fit on the sidelines, and he's in Dak's ear yelling. if you remember, I mean, you'll remember 2004 Steelers Eagles when T.O. and Donovan McNabb started showing like a little bit of signs of
I remember that.
It looked exactly like that, where you could very clearly see CeeDee like rolling his eyes and he's like, just get me the effing ball. Like there was clear frustration there. So I'm wondering how that goes, especially because both guys just got paid. They need to figure that out quickly. But over the last 2 weeks for the Cowboys offensively, 21st in EPA per play. And just for context, they're sandwiched between Denver, who's 22nd, and the Jaguars, who were 20th. Dak in EPA plus CPOE composite is 23rd. Skylar Thompson has ranked higher than that over the last 2 weeks. So that's not great.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's not good.
Dak has been like scattering the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
And like, I try not to attack Dak because the Dak Defense League comes running out to tell me that he's secretly, tremendous no matter what. But like
Dak.
I like Dak too, but like there is a defense league that's like
sure. Yeah,
it is all McCarthy or this or that. So it's like Dak
it's the Just Dak League.
Yeah, just the Just Dak League. How dare you question Dak? But like he's been scattershot. He doesn't have a lot to throw to besides CD. It's interesting because the money should have bought them 2 months of peace and quiet.
Yeah, it's like, everybody's holding hands, singing Kumbaya, and everything's fine. But then you realize, all right, his number 2 target is Kevontae Turpin. I think that's the young man's name. And Brandon Cooks, who, I think he's 30 now, so he's on the back end of his career. And they have you and I running the ball, basically. It's not good.
Interior offensive lines, a lot of replacement guys, a lot of guys I don't recognize. I haven't sat there and studied them, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're doing the job very well. So I'm going back to the emotional issues. One of Jason Garrett's abilities, because he doesn't have a lot of them, but one of Jason Garrett's abilities is that he could get everybody in a room and calm everybody down a little bit. Because Jarrett would be on the radio screaming about what just happened, and the guys would be screaming at each other, and Garrett could like get everybody back in the straight and narrow. McCarthy's going to hit the spa. So when the going gets tough, he gets cucumbers over his eyes. So, I don't know how that progresses, but it's fascinating for the Cowboys. Week 3 to be here, yelling at each other on the sidelines, coming off a loss, and we haven't heard. Jarrett hasn't done his radio show yet, so I don't know.
Not yet. I'm sure we'll get a lot of good sound bites out of that. You said that it's hard to put Dallas in that Super Bowl conversation. I'd say it's equally as hard for me to put Baltimore in that conversation. I scream from the rooftops for anybody that would listen coming into the season. Look, Baltimore's not going to be nearly as good, and they were damn near 0-3 and blew another fourth quarter lead. And like the offense is basically Lamar and cross your fingers. Like you hope that Nelson Aguilar will make a big play, or they started feeding Derrick Henry finally, which is good, but at the same time, that's an aging running back, and there feels like there's a shelf life for that. Yeah. And defensively, like they're missing a lot of those guys that they lost. I think they missed Geno Stone, they missed Patrick Queen. So I feel like Baltimore is, by the way, they got Buffalo next, so it's not going to get any easier. Right. I think Baltimore is equally like, all right, well, yeah, they got Lamar, but what else is there?
Yeah, and the flip side of that is they dominated the Raiders and lost.
Yeah.
They've got a self-destructive attitude towards them. Like their penalty situation is bad, and penalties were hurting them again during the Cowboys comeback. And we've seen these moments, like the first half of that game, the moments when this clicks and it's great, a little bit like the Eagles. Yeah. And then the moments where it's like we can't get out of our own way, but I think they're missing some pieces on defense. They're missing some pieces on the offensive line.
Not a good offensive line.
Mixing and matching. Ronnie Stanley has been hurt. They've had like a bunch of guys at right tackle. And their receiving core, not counting the tight ends, is also a problem. So they got Buffalo, and then they got somebody else.
Let me pull up their schedule real quick because it doesn't get easier for them.
Oh, no, it's rough. It's Cowboys, Buffalo, and then it's like the Niners or something.
Let's see who they play. So their upcoming schedule, they host the Bills, and then they go to Cincinnati. That's not easy. They have a get-right game against the Commanders at home, a game that they should win. They go to Tampa. I don't think that's a gimme. I think they should win that, but I don't think it's going to be, just one that's handed to them. Right. They go to Cleveland. That's a game they should win because, Deshaun's just bad. And then they get Bo Nix at home. So, that's a nice little 2-game stretch where they should be able to clean some stuff up.
They got winnable games in there, absolutely. But, yeah, Buffalo and Cincinnati, got to get one win out of those.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just too far out of the
race.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 1 and 2 teams right now. Cowboys and Ravens, we just talked about. Rams and 49ers are both now 1-2 after the 49ers blew a 14-point lead to the Rams, who were throwing to Tutu Atwell and those other guys who apparently play for the Rams.
Yeah, that kid they drafted who's pretty good, that wide receiver.
That Conference USA 6th round pick. It was like, sure, why not?
Was it Hendrickson? Is that the kid's name?
Oh, I don't know. Here, let me pull the Rams up.
Colby Parkinson.
Colby Parkinson, he's still in the league. Good for him.
Yes. They were using Kyron Williams as a receiver, which is kind of desperate.
Demarcus Robinson, I didn't know. I kind of forgot that he was there. Jordan Whittington, Tyler Johnson. Yeah.
Whittington's a decent little player, but he's like a 5th round rookie. He's like fake Puka. I was going to get my violin out because when the 49ers start complaining about the injuries, I break out the violin. Things. Right. The Rams aren't serious because they're just too injured. They're not going to sustain this. They sucker punch the 49ers. And, I wrote about it. The 49ers have to show that they can win when they're not just out-talenting you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes back to the thing like, okay, show us who you are when you're trailing. And they showed us who they were once they were up big. And then once the Rams started coming back, it was like, oh, crap.
Show us who you are when you don't have 4 mismatches on offense and your defense is just rolling. And it's all right. Yeah, you're up by 2 scores. Show us who you are in these other situations. And it's like it can't be the narrative is, well, wait till we get Debo and Christian McCaffrey and Kittle back. Like, everybody full strength is good. What happens if you get league average injury luck this year? You've got to be able to beat the Rams in those situations. Yeah. So, I mean, we're joking about them a little bit. They're a very dangerous team.
Yeah, obviously.
But it's still they're 1-2. Kind of poop the bed a little bit in Minnesota. You go down to the Rams. That was supposed to be your gimme.
Yep. That's the place that they're like historically successful. They joke that it's Levi's South because it's just flocked with 49ers fans every time they go there.
Right.
The Rams, though, they got the Bears next week. So, I mean, that's a game. If they win that, they're back to 500 before, hopefully they can get some guys back. I know Puka's gone for a while. Is Cooper Kupp also on IR?
No, he's not. They're keeping him off IR, but I don't know if this is gamesmanship a little bit. It's like
they're also just running out of spots on IR where they just can't.
They could be that. It could be that because there's a lot of guys. They lost guys in the secondary.
Yeah.
In the preseason, they lost guys on the offensive line where they kind of a rotation. Some of them came back. I don't even know who's who right now, but some guys came back. Some guys got hurt. Yeah. It's a mess. So, the Rams, credit, they manufactured this win. They kind of kept the 49ers sort of napping late in that game. I don't know how sustainable that is. I think the Bears are a better team right now, frankly. It's just that Caleb is making a lot of mistakes and very big.
I'm pretty sure he leads the NFL in interceptions right now. He's thrown like 2 per game.
He's thrown like 2 per game. It's a lot of times so it's like just cough it up for grabs type interceptions.
That's the thing. Like I think he still thinks that he's playing like Fresno State. And it's like, no, bro, this ain't the Pac-12 anymore. You gotta fit those balls into tight windows. Oh, that's gonna get clipped later by somebody. In terms of speaking of quarterback play, like who is first in EPA plus CPOE over the last 2 weeks?
Purdy?
It's Malik Willis. I think that Matt LaFleur just won himself the coach of the year for that alone.
Phenomenal.
Tremendous job by him.
Absolutely phenomenal. And I only watched parts of this week's game. Last week's game,
everybody knew what they were going to do, and the Colts couldn't stop it.
Right. Now, part of that's on the Colts, but it's like the running game was incredibly creative.
Yeah.
And the RPO and the little ways to get the ball in the perimeter and space were creative. And so he opens it up a little bit this week. Not much, really, when you look at it.
I think he had like a long touchdown pass because he only had 9 completions, but he had like 200 some yards. Like there's a few of them in there that is like, all right, Malik, just launch it.
I think he had one launch it where the simplest play for like these young quarterbacks, and Bo Nix had a couple. It's man coverage, float the ball up there, let your guy catch it. That's all Will Levis did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Go throw it to Nuke, let him jump. Okay. So people went, Bo Nix had a strong game. Bo Nix threw Cortland, get it. And then there was an interception by Mayfield's 14-0, and you're under control. Willis had one of those. He had a screen pass that went like 75 yards.
No, really? Okay.
Yeah, to the backup running back whose name eludes me right now. But like, I mean, he's managing what I mean. This is a guy who's been in the system like for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He's managing what he's doing well. He's not making foolish mistakes with the ball. He's running it well. That's good. But it's the floor, and it's those playmakers. You know,
and I think that when looking back at last week, because they did, you mentioned the RPO stuff. Like they did a little RPO. I think it was a toss out to Dontavian Wicks, who was in space, and they scored a touchdown off that. They're starting to open it a little bit for him, but they know. And by the way, great for Malik Willis. Very happy for him. Who went to Tennessee. It never worked out. He was like legitimately one of the worst quarterbacks in football over the last couple of years. And now the Packers, who. After week 1, we're already waving the white flag like, oh, crap, Jordan Love might be gone for the year. Just lost to the Eagles. Yeah. Our season's done before it begins. Now we're like, all right, Jordan Love, be back soon. Don't got to rush him back. Who do the Packers play next, by the way? Because if they Vikings. Oh, they play the Vikings next. Yeah, okay. Maybe don't throw Jordan Love to the Wolves there. You can throw Malik Willis to the Wolves and be 500 after all this. I think that's probably the best move.
Or if Love is healthy, you throw him out. But the chance to like issue the statement here and kind of like write like, no, we're this team. Vikings are not this team. We're this team. And I'm curious to see it. Also, Packers defense 9 turnovers through 3 games.
Xavier McKinney was money well spent. He's very clearly showing that. Jair had the pick 6.
That was just
Will Levis being Will Levis.
If I stand here, he won't see me. It was
He did the Jurassic Park when they see a dinosaur thing. Like, all right, if I hold perfectly still, this T-Rex won't eat me. Well, that's tremendous. Will Levis is must-watch TV for like all of for the same reason that like people watch NASCAR just to see a massive crash. That's Will Levis. He's Talladega. That's great.
He's one of a kind. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's the best. I'm already starting to see folks look at Daniel Jones and say, all right, they might have something here. You remember how we talked about going into the season? They play Washington and Cleveland back-to-back. Mm-hmm. It looks like the Browns are going to run away with it at first because the Browns recover the opening kickoff fumble. Yes. And then Amari scores. And it was like, all right, Cleveland in control. And then just crap the bed the rest of the way. We don't have to do the Daniel Jones thing. We know he's not good. We don't have to do a think piece about, maybe he's finally figured it out. Like we don't got to do it. And I hope that people are smart enough to not do it.
Mara needs to pay me personally to like write it at this point. It's like for $1,000, I'll write the Daniel Jones think piece. And the signature play of the game was a jump ball. And we just talked about you throw the jump ball and let you catch it into the hands of the cornerback, and Malik Willis Malik Neighbors just takes it away. Yeah. And then sideline pass. And then he catches the ball like horizontally and tips his feet down before he goes out of bounds. And that's the touchdown. But I think I'm going to write this up. What's interesting about Daniel Jones is most quarterbacks at his level lose their jobs a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But because he doesn't, he either gets hurt or he is allowed to like suck for like 6 weeks in a row. Then when he has to rise up, like Sam Darnold, his under the C games, he's benched. Mm-hmm. And he rises up, has a couple games, and he has his bad games, and he goes back under the sea. We keep seeing Daniel Jones rise up because we see him like walk across the bottom of the ocean and come back out. So you have this, maybe this is the time that he's developed. No, if he was in a normal situation, he'd be a backup coming off the bench and having an okay game. But this is a weird thing that the Giants do where they just live with this guy. Anyway, Giants won because Malik Neighbors is really good, and their front four is good, and they're able to put pressure on a very banged-up line and make Deshaun Watson do stupid things. That's how they win.
I think that if they have a mismatch offensive line-wise, Dexter Lawrence is just going to eat all year because he's the best interior defensive lineman in football. Yeah. And, who else do they bring? They have Thibodeau. They traded for Brian Burns. So,
that's a front four.
That's a front four. That's a very formidable defensive line. And everything else isn't good. And their offensive game plan is just going to be Malik be God, please. That's basically what it's going to boil down to. And I just don't think that is formidable long term. And eventually it's going to come back to bite them in the butt. The Cardinals and Lions, if I had one game to pick to hit the over, I think the over-under was 51.5. I would have pointed at that one and said, that's an easy one. 20-13. The Lions did a very fun little play where they threw it to Amon-Ra and he did a hook and ladder to Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? Ben Johnson said, watch this. And that was very fun to watch. But both teams I still feel good about. I still think that the Cardinals are going to be one of the formidable offenses. I said coming into the year that they were going to be a top 10 offense in the league. And Detroit gets off, last week, bad game against Tampa Bay. They come back and get a nice rebound win. Still confident in both of these teams. How do you feel about Detroit, though, right now amongst like the rest of the NFC contenders?
Yeah, I didn't write about them yesterday because I didn't see the game until this morning. But they've got this self-destructive tendency too, but in like a low-key way. Like the Cowboys self-destructed, the 49ers self-destruct at the end. The Eagles self-destructed for 3 quarters and then got a couple big plays and they get a win. And the Lions kept looking like they were going to pull away from that one, and then Goff throws an interception. Or they got a 4th down stuff. And just these other little mistakes along the way. And I feel like for championship caliber, like, are you a guy away? Do we need the Jameson Williams never quite turns into this thing on the outside, or you need something on your front besides Hutchinson, somebody coming the other way, and they don't really materialize. They're very good, but I just kept waiting for, and this is the moment you pull away from these Cardinals who were having trouble moving the ball after the first drive.
Yeah, and
we're having trouble stopping the run, and yet they were down by a touchdown this entire game. So it's I guess I'm having a hard time sorting the NFC out right now because the contenders are struggling, and then these goofy teams like the Vikings are kicking.
The Vikings are like, okay, we'll be good for September. Why not?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, when you put it that way, when they have like mini self-destructs, like the Eagles, the Ravens, like they tend to just completely, like the entire city explodes. The Lions, when they do, like they're just holding like a firecracker for too long and it explodes. Like, motherfucker, ow!
Right.
They kind of figure it out after that.
Right. We're playing the Buccaneers. We'll play the Buccaneers. We'll be fine. Let's go 1 of 7 in the red zone. Let's get to the 18-yard line and then abandon the
ball 55 times when we can run. Okay.
Right. When you should be able to overwhelm their line. Okay. I think Vea was hurt during that game too.
Yeah.
Overrun their line, but you get to the 15-yard line. Let's do something to get the ball like over the middle of the field with Jared Goff. Let's not. Let's pound the ball, get a touchdown, and go home. And that's why they're 2-1, not 3-0 right now.
Right. The Chiefs are 3-0. I'm not going to play the game that everybody else did last year when they're like, oh, yeah, they're winning, but like they don't look like the same old Chiefs. Maybe this is the year. Not doing that. I'll wait till January to kind of do that. But one thing is notable, both to my FanDuel account and to the naked eye. Travis Kelce isn't getting in the end zone. Travis Kelce doesn't look very good right now.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice does, which is a nice little pickup for the offense, and he's taking that next step forward. But it seems like he's definitely reached that point in his career where he is going to take a little bit of a step back and somebody else has to step up. And if it's going to be only Rice, okay, but you're not going to be playing the Falcons every week that, you can escape with those kinds of wins.
Exactly. And Kelce, he looks like he's aging quickly before our eyes. There was a little 3rd and 2 pass where it's on his hands.
Mm-hmm. And Jesse came in and knocked it away.
Yeah, defender knocks it away, but it's like, for the last 8-9 years, Kelce's just rips it back in, gets that play, maybe turns upfield for a few yards. And you're seeing, well, that's your reflexes and things like that just aren't quite what they were. And I see an example of that every week. And it can't just be Rice, because last year it was Rice and Kelce. And it's like, well, that gives you enough in there with Mahomes doing all his things and this better defense and all. And Pacheco is not there, and he won't be there for weeks and weeks. So, but I'm not playing the same game because you know what? We played that game with Brady and the Patriots every year for 20 years. Well, they started out a little slow. They took that loss at the beginning of the year, a little bit flat. He doesn't seem to have the playmaker.
Do you remember? I think it was like 2017. The Chiefs just beat the piss out of them at home week 1, and we were like, "Yep, it's finally come." And we're like, unfortunately, it's not.
Yep, and it doesn't. And then, like these teams have good top to bottom organizations, a lot of experience at it, know how to get these manufactured victories, get next man up, do things schematically, whatever, and they wind up staying in the race.
What do we think about Kirk? It feels like they are very aware, like this dude can't move a lot, and we might have made slightly a mistake.
Yeah. I'm still burnt from Monday night Kirk, Monday night at 11 o'clock Kirk.
I'm sorry.
I know, because he didn't look that good. Like, okay, this looks like a creaky journeyman who's like handing off the Bijan and everything. Oh my God! And then he levitates for 1 minute for the first time in his career on Monday night when the Eagles are just done. But like, I mean, he's kind of fine. What do you think of Drake London?
Drake London, he's kind of fine. Right. I think that we might have overhyped how good the Falcons could be just because we saw the potential, right? And potential, unfortunately, is just a word, fancy word for saying they haven't done anything yet.
Right.
Like Pitts has had potential for like 4 years. Drake London's had potential for a couple of years. Bijan's kind of creeping into that. Well, he's got potential category. It's just at some point you got to do it. I will say Zach Robinson didn't call a great game though, especially late with the let's go split back, give it to Bijan and have Tyler Algier try to block Nick Bolton. See how that goes. Oh, it didn't work. Yeah, who would have thought that?
Yeah, Tyler Algier, you had 2 tight ends to that side. The entire flow of the play is going that way. And you look at where Bijan's shoulder pads are, and the shoulder pads are square with the sideline. And it's like you're just asking for this. You're asking for guys to shoot gaps. And there's a lot of throw it in the flat to Mooney.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney. Yeah, what the hell has he turned into the past couple of weeks? He's like becoming maybe Kirk's best target.
Right, and Mooney was a heck of a target for a couple of years there, and with the late Trubisky, early Fields.
Yeah,
but it is like get him in space, get him those screens, and I guess I'm just looking at this like you spent all this money for this quarterback. Drake London is supposed to be this. I get what Pitts kind of is at this point. He hasn't been terrible, but whatever. And but like, if it's feed the ball to Darnell Mooney, then are you just the Bears from 3 years ago? Is that what you paid for?
Kind of, because they got Darnell Mooney. Drake London's kind of their Allen Robinson, just a little bit younger version. Kyle Pitts is turning into, who was it? What was it?
He's not even Komet. He's not even because
I don't think it was Komet. Yeah, so
he's like the Allen Robinson.
Yeah, they had another tight. He's Trey Burton.
Oh God.
Yeah, he's become. It's just not great defensively though. Like they got guys like Simmons had another pick. Matt Judon's good. So credit to them for finding a few upgrades late in the preseason on that side of the ball. Jesse Bates is obviously great. They just need to get some offensive firepower.
Get some offensive firepower. Get a little more consistency, I think, on defense. So those guys stand out a little bit more. This team could be 0-3 again if the Eagles didn't do an epic collapse on them. This is an 0-3 team, close in every game. But what are we? Somebody asked me, like, can they turn it around? It's like, what are we waiting for? There's no like next year with this.
Yeah,
it's got to be this year. It's got to be now.
Yeah. And you mentioned it. If not for the easiest game-winning drive I've ever seen in my life, where it was all right. Kyle Pitts 11 yards, Mooney down the sidelines. Drake London missed a touchdown to Ray. Drake London gets a touchdown. We win. That was
right. You're surprised. You.
Would you look at that? I've run for 9 yards so far, and I just marched down the field. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, man. Jaguars, Bills tonight. Bengals, Commanders tonight. What are you paying attention most to for those two games?
Well, the Jaguars make me angry.
Yeah, me too.
Just this sloppy team, and I think the Bills should roll. And I have so little feel of the Bengals right now.
I feel like we come into week 3 every year saying that exact same thing about the Bengals. We're like, they're 0-2, maybe. And they seem to always pick it up. So I'm not too worried about the Bengals. I think if there's any sort of get-right game, it's playing Cliff Kingsbury's offense, knowing that you won't have to score too many points, and a Commanders defense that is still pretty bad.
Right, and Higgins is back, and Aaron Schatz and I were talking about earlier. No secondary in Washington. They still really don't have that secondary. So you can get Jamar and Higgins against guys, and it should be easy pitch and catch and open things up underneath as well. Daniels has been playing pretty well. If you look at how rudimentary what they're asking him to do is, it's not a sustainable system. Unlike Caleb Williams, who is asked to do a lot, Daniels is running a lot of zone read, and dump it to Eckler, dump it to the big kid, Robinson. And I think that's about to get figured out. If it's not this week, it's going to be next week.
Yeah. In terms of Jaguars Bills, I won't be surprised if the Jaguars keep it at least close just because they're desperate at this point. If you go 0-3, that's a 5-alarm fire in Duval. And especially because I think they play Houston next week. So it's not getting easier in Jacksonville. I feel bad though, because like one of their biggest issues last year, especially in the tail end, was that defense stunk. Ryan Nielsen's come over. They haven't allowed more than 20 points in a game yet. And they're 0-2.
Right.
So they figured out that side of the ball, but the offensive line's still bad. Trevor doesn't have enough time to make plays. And last year he was good under pressure. This year he's just not. And that's been a problem.
The defense is much stronger. Defensive front's very strong right now. Penalties.
That too.
Offensive penalties, big problem. Fluky defensive penalties where they, the roughing the passer type of things. Blown blocks. Anton Harrison with his blown blocks. Some of the other guys. Drop passes all over the place.
Christian Kirk had a few of those week one that, could have, maybe swung things a little bit.
Kirk has some. Ingram has some. There have been things like formation penalties, which I put on Doug Peterson and Press Taylor and the fit finish down there. Execution errors, situational play calling errors, just all of these things just add up. So the team just looks like they stink. And I think the talent is there to be a better team than that. But you don't want to be trying to figure this crap out when you're facing the Bills in Buffalo.
Exactly. And I look at it from this point of view. I mean, let's say you're the Jaguars and say you're 1-5 by week 6. You going to cut bait with Doug Peterson at that point? I feel like that's probably a good idea to see. All right, we'll give Ryan Nielsen a 2.5 month audition, see if he's the right guy. And if not, there's a certain guy out there who said, I'm not just going to take any sort of head coaching job. It's got to be a right quarterback fit. Maybe Ben Johnson, maybe ? I don't know. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'd like to work with Trevor Lawrence. But that's a whole other conversation for another time. I think that, we talked about the NFC contenders and whatnot and how they're all struggling. I won't be surprised if we see a splash trade made in the coming weeks, especially if certain teams keep struggling. And, to bring it back to Detroit a little bit, I think that really just throwing it on the table and say, you know what? Hey, Mark, what do you want for Devontae Adams? That would be pretty fun for us to add on the outside to compliment Amon-Ra.
Devontae Adams is a content model. He is a source of information. When I was doing radio in the off season, pretty much we're talking about June radio.
Right.
Well, we just need a sting here to let's get a football guy in. When's Devontae Adams going to be traded? And I always the same question is, has Devontae Adams ever said he's mad or upset? Now, as the deadline,
maybe he's chilling. I don't know.
He's chilling them as the deadline approaches. He becomes a valuable puzzle piece, and these. But the idea that he's discontented, he might be chilling, collecting his paycheck, happy to get his touches, etc., and just happy with this. But you'd be foolish not to pick up the phone if you're some of these teams like Detroit. But I'm going to tell you, you have to chase Daniel up that trade a little bit.
You think?
Yeah. So you got to put Devontae Adams on the table. Can you put Stafford on the table too? Add some first-round picks. Throw Bryce Young into it.
Well, I was going to say, let's end up in a situation where Bryce Young and Devontae Adams are both on the Rams, and all of a sudden, Sean McVay turns this thing around. Why would you want to do it with Matthew Stafford when you can do it with Bryce Young?
Right. Prove your genius. Prove your genius once and for all. Show that you can do it.
This is too easy. How about I really just show everybody how great I am? You think that Matt LaFleur's good with Malik Willis? Watch this. I'll trade away Matthew Stafford and get Bryce Young. That'll show him. Everybody, I gotta love the take artist. It's always fun. What have you got coming on 2 Deep Zone?
I have no idea. Oh, I'm doing. My walkthrough is up. I've got a mailbag coming, and last time I checked, I put it up at noon, and we were recording at 3, and there were 37 questions.
Wow, good stuff.
So I don't know how I'm going to approach that. Maybe I'll just do 2 mailbags.
That's a good idea. Yeah, maybe like an AFC NFC mailbag.
Right. And the readers ask phenomenal questions. So by the time you're doing mailbag, here's the trick with mailbag, and I'm blessed with subscribers to the 2 Deep Zone at MikeTanier@Substack.com. Who ask a mixture of very silly questions like, what are you drinking right now? And really informed one. By the time I do the mailbag, we've covered the entire NFL. I have a hard time writing another column after that because it's we covered all the topics. There's none left. So maybe I'll do 2 mailbags. I'll have to see what's in there.
That's not a bad idea at all. If you are listening to this as a podcast, leave a review, whether that be stars or written. Yeah, do all that fun stuff. I'll read them. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel as always. Always fun doing this with you, Mike. I love you to death, my friend, and I love doing stuff with you. So thank you so much for always blessing me with your time and your mannerisms and Reggie White peeking over your left shoulder. It's always good to see.
What do you got coming up?
What have I got coming up? I don't know. Oh, actually, I do know. Tomorrow, doing a sit down with Max Crosby, so that'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, so that'll be written. That'll come out on SB Nation within the next week or so. So yeah, read that when it comes out with Max Crosby. That'll be a lot of fun talking to him about pass rushing moves, tattoos, all the good stuff that him and I can really bond over. Can't wait for it. It's gonna be a fun time. So keep an eye out on that. Follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL to find out when it comes out. I'll post it and all that fun stuff. And it might go up as a video. We'll see how all that, the semantics of that work out. If not, just read it. It'll be a good time with me and Max. So appreciate everybody for listening as always. Tune in later on in the week when we preview week 4. We'll be back later on as well to talk Steelers stuff with Nick Farbaugh of Penn Live for the Steelers show. So a bunch of content coming. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Have a good one.